People are living longer than ever before. And that is so great. There's more experiences, more family fun, more Netflix, all that. And it means we're going to be relying on our bodies for longer periods of time. And that comes with a whole bunch of consequences when we are alive and walking through this world for sometimes decades longer than certainly generations before us. We're going to focus on that topic and how it relates to personal finance with Michelle Pannor Silver. She is a professor at the University of Toronto. She is the chair of the Department of Health and Society, and she has a new book out. It is called Aging with Agility: How Elite Athletes and Ordinary Folks Embrace Exercise with Age. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Bruce.
I feel very vested to this topic because I am now a person of a certain age. I think I'm probably a while away from retirement, but I certainly do think about my health much more than I did in my 30s and 40s, which I am no longer in. I want to start by making the connection between aging and money. This is a show about money, but we cover money in all its facets. What would you say about the connections that you draw between your research and personal finance?
I think that we need to start thinking about the body as a resource. And when we think about money, we're thinking about resources, right?
Mm.
And so the connection that I want us to draw here is that your body is a resource. And as you mentioned, we're living longer than we have ever lived before in all of human history. And so we're at this point where it's really important that we recognize we need to take care of our bodies in whatever manner this resource has come to us in. There are ways that we can work with what we have and ways that we can find motivation. Just like we need motivation to earn money,
Yeah.
we need to find the right motivation that's going to apply to us to help us take care of this resource that's going to
Mm.
be with us for as long as we're around.
And I'm sure people who have older individuals in their lives see a continuum of those who've been successful at, physical and mental health, and those who have had a lot more challenge, maybe not at all to do with choices that they have made, just because of the circumstances that they're in, but the costs that can be associated with mobility issues and the need to get around to 15,000 appointments and medications and all those sorts of things. Excellent. I want to connect to the book by asking this question. What was the question you were trying to answer with this research?
So I was looking at how perceptions about aging influence people's exercise habits. And originally, I had access to this sample of elite athletes, and I thought that they were going to give me the answers. I thought I was going to write this fabulous book about how elite, high performance athletes, people who had represented their country at Olympic Games, who were willing to let me interview them later in life, were going to tell me all the secrets that we needed to know. And that was my original hypothesis and what I set out to do. And along the way, I learned that being an elite athlete can do a lot of damage to the body, and it can do a lot of premature aging. It can do a lot of, in some cases, connect to addiction issues and pain and things that sometimes don't ever happen, but also sometimes happen later in life, but can happen early in life for athletes. Anyway, I eventually expanded my sample and also included mature adults who were in the best shape of their lives, though they'd never been athletes in their later years. And I learned some secrets and I learned some really interesting ways of thinking about aging with agility.
So spill it. What are the secrets that you learned? I have my pen and paper ready.
Well, some of them were really quite specific and practical. So, Felipe was a coach who had also represented his country in the Olympics. And when I interviewed him later in life, he gave me a tip. Besides always correcting my posture and telling me how to think about the body, he had a suggestion which was I'm right-handed and so is he, and he mentioned that he started brushing his teeth with his left hand at a certain point in order to put less pressure on the gums, but also in order to help bring some agility to that side of the body. And I thought that was a great tip, right? For
Yeah.
those of us who have different body types and different, limbs that work or don't. I thought, well, this one, I mean, assuming you've got access to a left arm and you're
Mhm.
right-handed, it was a really interesting one. He also recommended learning how to fall and taking time to exercise. I would say that was the biggest theme I heard from different participants was um, making sure that you recognize that, today's the day to find ways to move in whatever way that you can and whatever kind of motivation you can draw on. Some
Mm.
people talked about negative role models and how they didn't want to be like their mother who never got out of bed or who had a heart attack at 45 and they used that as motivation to get themselves to move. And I heard about that kind of example of a negative mo role model in lots of different ways. Um, Others just talked about taking more risks in life and learning how to enjoy life more. And that's
Mm.
not necessarily a physical piece of advice. It could actually be a financial piece of advice. But it was a device that participants used, that people I interviewed used to
You
move.
you write about a woman in Los Angeles who
Yeah.
was very proud, is very proud of how young she looked. She had curated plastic surgery. She exercised for a couple of hours every day. A reader might take away that her focus on aging with agility was, if not purely, then mostly ego driven. What do you want us to take away from her story?
That it's okay, that you don't have to feel guilty for taking care of your own body. She also told me that she always belonged to two gyms and she was privileged in that
Two? Why
sense.
two?
But it was a very strategic, and she always tried to join a gym where the membership was about a decade younger than wherever she was at. So she rotated because she used that as motivation. She also always told people that she was a little older than she actually was, so that she could get the compliment, "Oh, you look so great. You don't look that old," right? And
Yeah.
I thought that was hysterical. It was really clever. Because it gave her this boost that she needed. And that's what she needed. And I think that's the thing. Aging's really complicated, right? Just like
Mm,
finances, it's
mm,
complicated, right? But the trick is to find what works for you, right? What
mm.
is that amount of money that's going to make you feel secure? What is that amount of compliments that's going to help you motivate? Not everybody needs that, but for those who do, it's okay because doing that means you're going to be less of a concern for the healthcare
Mm.
system, right? Because you're going to be investing in yourself.
What did you find needed to change over time in terms of expectations? And I'll ask from a personal example. I'm a runner by background. I used to run lots of marathons. I ran what was probably my last marathon when I turned 50. And now my Achilles is saying it's not particularly interested in another marathon. And I am actually in a place where that's okay. It's fine. I may never run another marathon again, but I do something physical every day. What sort of recalibration is required so that we're still empowered in doing the things and not bemoaning the fact that we can't do what we used to be able to do?
I think whatever is your secret is the thing to do, is to find that acceptance that we're always changing. You know what? In another decade, you might be in even better shape, and you look great right now, but you
Thank
might
you.
be in even better shape. You might find a whole new sport that doesn't even exist today that's even more exciting to you than running, right? I think that part of it is doing whatever it takes to keep moving. So in your case, it sounds like you accepted that running isn't
I
is
have, and I found my new sport. I'm such a cliche. It's pickleball. It's pickleball. I
love it.
love the pickleball.
Amazing. Well, that's the trick. That's the trick is finding what works with the body that you have today, because the body you have today is going to be different than it was yesterday and that it will be tomorrow. Tomorrow and the next day might be even better, but
You
it's
make a
going to be
you make a
different.
you make a distinction between aging and deteriorating. What is the difference between those two things? Because I think we have collapsed them.
Yeah, well, so, to certain biological processes are associated with decline. And so I wouldn't argue that. But the mindset that I think it takes to age with agility is to recognize that it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all negative. There are ways that we really want to avoid the decline mindset and recognize. I mean, look, I interviewed people who were in their 70s, 80s, beyond and were telling me they're in the best shape of their entire lives, that they felt the best they'd ever felt.
Wow. Wow. Just before we go here, I love the tips that you gave, in particular, the one about the toothbrushing. That's genius. Are there one or two others that were particularly resonant for you as an individual that you thought, you know what? I'm gonna take that on.
Another one that I heard was paying attention to the resources that you need and being willing to give the resources that you have. And that might not sound very physical, but it really is about like thinking about the whole body as a holistic system. And I think about that in every aspect of my life. Like when I come up against something difficult, like that I've got an ache or pain, or that I've got a problem at work, or a money problem, I think about, okay, what are the resources that I have? Who can I reach out to? Because it's easy to kind of go inward when things get tough, right? And I heard this from Connie, who was one of the women who's featured in the book and had been an Olympic athlete and had this amazing way of thinking about resources and shared that it's also about recognizing what you have to give. What resources do you have to give? Because that and caregiving and giving of others can also be very motivating, right? You really need to take care of your own body in order to be able to help other people. And I think about that often.
It's really, really interesting stuff. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We really, really appreciate it. The book is called Aging with Agility: How Elite Athletes and Ordinary Folks Embrace Exercise with Age. The author, Michelle Pannor Silver, was our guest. She's a professor and chair of the Department of Health and Society at the University of Toronto.